All right, everyone, welcome in to Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. This is episode 56, our second Christmas edition of this Brazilian American sports broadcast. Here, recording on the winter solstice, the first day of winter. And it's truly about to be winter here in the United States. I'm live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, as always. Right now it's about 40 degrees, not too bad, but in this time in 48 hours, it's going to be below 10 degrees. It's going to feel like below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It's about to be absolutely miserable here in the southeast. We aren't used to Arctic conditions, and it's going to be pretty insane to watch. That's for sure. But my dear friend Gustavo Tomazeli will join us here in just a second, and there he is, live from America, Sao Paulo, Brazil, rocking it the summer Christmas.
Yeah,
And I will say this: you can get away with it in Brazil because it's summer there, but here it's literally about to be 10 degrees. We may get a little bit of snow tomorrow night. Here in Southeast Tennessee, it's truly going to feel like the North Pole has descended on
uh,
the United States.
here, if first of all, great to have with you, Nick, in this great podcast. Another Christmas pod. Can't believe our second. I had to come on late because I wanted to pull some like Christmas, you know, Christmas T-shirt. It couldn't be Christmas sweater because I couldn't be on sweater right now. It's so hot today. Really, it's really hot here in Brazil. I mean, it's the beginning of the summer. It still feels weird though to be Christmas in the heat because I spent like four consecutive uh Christmas in US 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. I really got used to have Christmas on snow. I feel bad for Santa Claus here in Brazil because they still have to dress up like Santa Claus, heavy, clothes on red. But here in Brazil, it's like, you know, 60, 70 to 80, no, I feel like 80 to 90 degrees.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
can you imagine them going to like the Australia Outback? Remember, it's
yeah.
midsummer there. That would be. I'm sure those reindeer would not fare well out in the Australian outback. Um,
Uh, and speaking of Christmas, I don't know if you saw it, the Christmas lighting decoration. I don't know where the house is, but they had like John Ward called, and it was on Vol Network.
I have not seen that. I'm gonna have to go look that up.
It's a really nice kind of Christmas, lights with a play by play. I don't know what game exactly, but that was a nice touch. And here in Brazil, there's some Christmas lights, but not as close to United States of America, especially on like the house and stuff. But it's a Christmas show, but the sports doesn't stop, especially when we just had our probably only late World Cup, like this November December World Cup. Probably, hopefully the only one.
Yeah, but man, what a World Cup it was! Obviously, when you look at this overall, right? I mean, Qatar probably going to go down in terms of the actual host country and some of the political stuff behind it. It's probably one of the worst hosts ever, considering all the slave labor and people who died behind the scenes, and all that will certainly rear its ugly head for many years and generations to come in Qatar. And I'll be very curious to see if they ever get to host anything like this again. But the actual product, the actual soccer, the actual games, I thought for the most part throughout this entire tournament was really, really good. And most importantly, it finished off with perhaps easily the best World Cup final I've ever seen, probably the best soccer game I've ever seen, and maybe one of the greatest sporting matches I've ever seen. Because Argentina and France blew out any expectations anyone could have ever had for this game. Of course, we knew the storylines going into it. You had Messi looking to complete his legacy with the only thing he didn't have, and that was a World Cup championship. You, you had the rest of Argentina trying to help him cross that finish line and finish what this next golden generation hadn't done since the days of Maradona back in the 80s. You had France trying to come in and be the first team since Brazil to go back to back at the World Cup. And, in Kylian Mbappe being only 23, uh, solidify himself as perhaps one of the all-time greats at a young age. And what's incredible is both Messi and Mbappe showed up big time in this game. Messi had 2 goals, and Mbappe had the hat trick, and just the plays in this game, the saves that both Lloris and Martinez had to make throughout the night. It all went down to the penalty kicks, which Argentina was money. They were more collected, and the World Cup is in Buenos Aires, back in the South American continent. Unfortunately, not in the country we were hoping it would be in, but
Yeah, thank you so much, Dite and Fred and all the 6 players who went on offense with 4 minutes to go in extra time. They're like, there's so much memes about it. People are like, so like, the best meme was like, I was like in a supermarket and I had a thought. Why the hell we had 6 players on offense with 4 minutes to go, leading 1-0 in the extra time? There are still, I guess we will always wonder about that. But I think Argentina deserved that title. I mean, first of all, they started we have to remember they lost to Saudi Arabia in the opening, and they were 1-0, and they lost 2-1. So it's like they had to recoup it within the tournament. The Mexico game was a do or die game, and they got and beat Mexico, and then they soundly beat Poland. And then from then on, I think they took over. I think credit to Lionel Scaloni, the coach, to fix the team and don't be like stubborn to be like, oh, that's the team I set up to the World Cup. When he saw that his schematics on the opening game didn't work, he made big changes, and for me the biggest credit for him was find a way for the team to play, and also Messi to not like. Of course, Messi is going to be the star, and the team heavily rely on him on offense. But I feel like if Messi didn't have to like run for every ball, like Messi always get the ball in the perfect spot. Messi always get the ball in the perfect way to set up a counterattack, or try to set up like a crazy offense play. So I think that's the but in terms of the final, I feel like Argentina dominated the first half more because France didn't show up. Like, when was 2-0 on like 65 minutes on second half, I thought like that was over.
yeah.
But
I mean, it was insane to see Giroud and Griezmann. I mean, one, get fairly dominated in the midfield the way they did, and two, to get subbed off before halftime. I mean, that's when you knew France was desperate, when they were subbing 40 minutes into the match.
yeah, like Didier Deschamps, he knew he had to do something because he was like, if I don't make those changes, i- still in the first half, I don't know if I'm ever gonna have a chance to come back in the second half. And of course, credit to Mbappe. He's definitely a once in a generation talent. Of course, when he got the opportunity, he scores. And I feel like there was I mean, PSG chairman, he was, thrilled. Imagine he's from Qatar. He's a Qatar company that owns PSG, and both of PSG stars were like, clashing battle in a World Cup in Qatar. He couldn't be happier. Like,
I mean, PSG's got to win the Champions League this year, right? I mean, with what they have on their
I,
squad.
the happiest guy on that World Cup final was Nasser Al Khelaifi. He is the PSG chairman. That he said the Qatar 2022 was the best World Cup ever. Of course, for him it was. Imagine, he's the chairman of Qatar Sports Investment, president of Paris Saint Germain. So both of his main talents were clashing in on his country's World Cup. I mean, he was probably the happiest guy ever in that stadium, no matter the outcome. He was the only guy who couldn't lose that game because either if Messi or Mbappe win, their teams, France or Argentina won, he won because one of his stars were the champions.
Yeah, and definitely the show that they put on, for sure. I mean, I can only imagine being a PSG fan sitting back and watching your two superstars just going back and forth, especially there in extra time. And I'll be totally honest, I had to watch the match afterwards, but I get in the moment I was out reporting on Sunday, and I was driving from one store to the other, listening to extra time. So the radio here, they have it just on the simulcast of Fox through tuning radio, and still like just driving and just trying to picture what Rob Stone was painting. Just oh my gosh, this you could feel the intensity just through the radio, and I can only imagine being in the stadium or being in the Argentine crowd and Buenos Aires watching that and knowing that what was on the line heading down the stretch there. I mean, truly to me, I can't think of many more sports matches that had more on the line than that one, because I mean that single match defines so many legacies forever. I mean, to me, it's like a Cavaliers Warriors Game 7 in 2016. It's like Brady Mahomes in the Super Bowl back in 2020. I mean, those are matches we'll be talking about forever.
I feel like it was more the Cavaliers Warriors Game 7 because it's like LeBron and Messi. Before LeBron, if LeBron you know, hadn't won that game, he would still be the probably the GOAT of the 21st century. He still would have the titles in the Heat, but he needed to win for his crowd, for his people. That's what Messi felt like too. He needed a title for his people. That's
Yeah,
why I
because
compare LeBron and Messi in terms of like the importance of legacy in that game.
like all the Champions Leagues and La Liga titles for Barcelona, this World Cup means more than any of that for him. Just like how that NBA Finals championship for Cleveland matters way more than his championship for the Lakers, and matters way more than the 2 titles he has for the Heat. I mean, that's definitely a really good comparison. And really, honestly, Messi and LeBron, if you think about it, they've had similar trajectories. They've been around for about the same amount of time, because Messi's been around since the early, was like 2002, 3,
2006.
2006, which is, LeBron started playing in the NBA in 2004. So
Yeah,
they've both always been around since I was a kid, Messi and LeBron. And they've both been, subject to a major debate, because LeBron's always been compared to Jordan. Messi's always been compared to Ronaldo. And, now it almost feels like the whole Messi Ronaldo thing is settled to an extent.
Yes, of course, when LeBron won his title with Cleveland, didn't settle the debate with Jordan. That debate will never end because LeBron still was like 4-5 in finals, and LeBron
4-6, 4-6,
4-6, and Jordan is 6-6. But I feel like you compare legacies, and of course I think Messi now is in the same category as Diego Maradona. Of course, I think Maradona is still will be a more glorified athlete for Argentina because that quarterfinal versus England, that game defined Maradona's legacy forever because as we talked about before, Falkland Island War, and then England beat Argentina in the war, and then Argentina beat England on the field with one of the most beautiful goals in World Cup history, and another controversial goal and it was so symbolic, the hand of God. That play was so glorified that we forgot it was like a illegal goal. He used his hand, but it was so mythical of the hand of the God, the hand reaching for the ball to beat the enemy.
Yeah, I mean, the hand of God. That's just one. It's just one of those plays that you'll talk about forever. And a guy we're going to talk about later, Franco Harris, that passed away today. He has an immaculate reception. Those are plays that will always live in the lore of their sports and the cities and countries that they happened in. And probably from that point alone, Maradona probably is the all-time Argentine GOAT. But I think from just a pure talent, from a pure being able of what he's meant to the global game. I mean, think about what Messi has done. Messi has dominated the most international, the most social era of the game, the first true era where soccer was truly accessible everywhere. I mean, like, this is the first era where soccer was truly accessible here in the U.S., in North America, and how it's just continuing to grow and grow. And Messi, for a lot of kids, especially here in the U.S., He was one of our first true American soccer superstars, like him and Ronaldo. And to see him uh, win this is pretty insane, even from an American perspective. I saw this the other day. The Argentina France game is the second most watched soccer game of any kind in American history. Do you want to guess how many people watched this game in the United States? It was over
I think it was like
25
22
million.
million. Wow.
Over, and you got to remember too, this is a 10 a.m. kick in the East Coast. It's a 7 a.m. in the West Coast. So by the time that thing ended, it was about 12:45 Eastern, about 9:45 a.m. on the West Coast, 7:45 in Hawaii. Yeah, 25 million. I mean, there's a lot of sporting events that can't get that. The NBA doesn't get that. The MLB can't get that anymore. The NFL can for the playoffs. But outside of NFL playoffs, that was the most watched event in sports this year.
I mean, of course, the big factor, it just shows the globalization of America itself and their sports fans. America is like what's happening in Brazil and other countries. You're just not confined to the sports of your city, of your state, of your country. This is a global game, and when you have two biggest stars, one is still young and the other one that you know a generation saw and glorify, of course going to get the big ratings. Of course, also for Fox, the broadcast in America was a perfect time because it was before football, so there was no competition within the NFL.
Yeah, and it just segued perfectly right into football because really the penalty kicks were over and then the football game started. So, I mean, it was absolutely perfect timing, but just the absolute thrill of that game. And I hope that has an impact even here because I think Fox did an excellent job in terms of their coverage. I really like their commentators. I think they did a good job of making sure the games were widely available. Um, and overall, I thought from a television perspective, this was about as good as coverage as you could get for the World Cup here, at least in the U.S. I definitely think they did a much better job in 22 than they did in 18 for Russia.
Yeah, here in Brazil was also, of course, a big ratings. Not surprise. Um, it was overall, like, here we measure on points. But it was triple the ratings compared to the Sunday before the World Cup. And also another point, Galvão Bueno, historic broadcaster, probably the Joe Buck, the all Michaels of here of soccer broadcasting Brazil. He retired, and he was just an amazing broadcaster. A lot of people don't like him. Of course, he can't please everybody, but for me, his passion, his emotion, he's able to create, like, sentences like that will live forever, and he able to, like, create so much emotions. So it was, I think he covered for like 10 or 11 World Cups, and of course, sadly, he wanted to broadcast Brazil being six-time champion, but he still did a great job broadcasting Argentina's title. It was funny that the first World Cup that he broadcast was literally the broadcast. It was literally probably the second World Cup he broadcast was Argentina's second title, and now he says goodbye with the Argentina's third title after 36 years.
So, like to me, what is the reaction like in Brazil to Argentina winning this title and Messi getting that ring? But what is that general reaction like down there? Because I know you guys have an intense international rivalry there, one of the most intense in all of international soccer.
A lot of Brazilian fans were, shy, kind of shy, like a little shy of rooting for Argentina for Lionel Messi because Messi is such like a, a transcended talent, and people always watch him with Barcelona and PSG. The people like wanted him to win. Of course, there were like some journalists that I know, like one very famous Rica Perrone, though he was like pulling very hard for France because he wanted Argentina to lose. But I think also it's just show. I think the rivalry is more on the Argentina side than on the Brazil side because while Brazil was like, "Oh, congratulations, Chile won," Argentinian fans were like burning Brazilian flags, kind of picking on Brazilian flags, chanting against Brazil. So it's like I feel like, and also it's hard to describe a rivalry when Brazil has been the superior since forever. Brazil has 5 titles. Argentina is 3 now. Brazil always dominated them. We beat them on the last 4 finals that I remember. Brazil beat them on 3. They only beat us recently on last year on Copa America, but I think it's more on that. But
Yeah,
but I think Argentina deserved the title, and congratulations to Messi and his squad, and also what a save by Emiliano, the keeper. When I saw that save, I was like, it's over. They got the title.
yeah. I mean, that last save of what 2-3 minutes ago, that was just unbelievable. I mean, the reflexes that's required, but then in a game like that, it takes heroics to win, and heroics came in bunches there down the stretch for Argentina. So just definitely congratulations to them. Congratulations to the Argentines. They deserve it. I know it's
What
still,
a, what a party! What a party! Like 10% of the country was in Buenos Aires celebrating because Argentina.
literally airlift the team out of there or something from the party.
Oh, I mean, there were people, throwing like throwing themselves at the bus, like jumping from bridges. Like it was. I mean, Argentinians are known to be passionate, and crazy. Imagine when their country wins the World Cup after almost 4 decades.
I mean, it sounds like Knoxville after the Alabama game a little
Oh
bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
I mean, imagine Knoxville after a national championship, though.
yeah.
I mean,
10% of the country was in the party in Buenos Aires because Argentina population is like 45 million, and 4.5 million people were in Buenos Aires celebrating the trophy.
see, I'm trying to think. So if we had that in Tennessee, like, so if we had 10% of all Tennessee show up in Knoxville for a parade, that's like 700,000 to 800,000 people to show up in Knoxville. Could you imagine Knoxville trying to hold that many people for a
No,
parade?
yeah. Oh my. I
I
mean,
know. I thought it would be a disaster.
I think if the Vols won the national title, probably half of that, I would say.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you could do it over in Pigeon Forge, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
To go riot at Dollywood or something. But yeah. But I guess to close, just overall, how would you just now that it's all over, and it's kind of crazy because I know from one of the things we talked about when we started this podcast was I bet when we get to the World Cup, it's going to be huge for us. It's going to be the event, and now we're done with it. Like we are past it. It's just it's kind of insane that it's come and it's gone so fast.
No, I think this World Cup, I mean, of course, the things that surrounded them was definitely not ideal. First of all, FIFA had to move from summer, like, North summer to the winter, of course, like messing up probably the effect we're going to see right now on the, you know, European leagues because now the players are going to be fatigued and, probably like PSG is going to be in serious trouble because imagine Neymar was already dealing with injuries throughout the World Cup. Mbappe and Messi, they're fatigued as ever. They gave them all. So, probably PSG is going to struggle a little bit. I think they can probably survive the month of December. You know, and Neymar is so funny. Like Neymar had a 10-day vacation. He already had that deal. Whatever happened, title or no title. But then today, 3 days after the final, Mbappe already showed up for practice, and a lot of PSG fans were like, why Mbappe, who literally just lost a World Cup final, show up for practice, and Neymar still enjoying sweet vacation, even though he was eliminated in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think if you're Mbappe, I mean, he literally tweeted out "News Revions," which is like "We'll be back" basically in French. So I think and remember he's only 23, so he's he's already thinking about the next one.
And now of course now the big question surfaces is now how the Benzema situation, if the Benzema situation affected or not, because there was rumors that Benzema were to be available for that game. Of course, Didier Deschamps ruled him out, but still, though, probably it had a little effect because because Benzema is not beloved in the French national team. He many times he was not even called for major tournaments, but of course, Didier Deschamps had to call him when he was elected the best player of the 2021 season, but he got injured throughout the World Cup, so the team didn't have to deal with him. But when he came back for the final, I think Didier Deschamps was not having it, but definitely he creates some uncertainty in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of interesting stuff like that. Of course, there's also Portugal, right? Like with the whole Ronaldo thing, but obviously Benzema, that's nowhere near that whole drama. But still, like, but yeah, that's why you have more than 11 players on a team. That's why you bring 26. And I don't know if Benzema makes that big of a difference. I mean, when you have guys like Olivier Giroud and Antoine Griezmann, those are world class guys that should have played way better in the final than they did. I mean, to me, I don't necessarily put the entire loss on them, but I think they shoulder a lot of the blame just because they got just totally outclassed there in the first half. Um, but hey, I don't know. I don't know how much that would have changed. I think it really was just Argentina's day. So, and speaking
Yeah,
of the ultimate vacation, the Christmas vacation, as we'd like to call it, Ronaldo is on the ultimate Christmas vacation. I guess he might be taking a Christmas vacation back to the Middle East. So,
I mean, it's so depressing if he goes already for his end of career tour, like, but it was inevitable when he already uh, left Juventus the way he did, and now left Manchester United, with such a cowardice way because he already, was having problems with the coach, and then he go on Piers Morgan, practically just, give a bombshell of an interview, and the team was like, "We had enough of you. Like you will always be our, idol. You won a Champions League, FIFA World Cup, Premier League, but you can't we can't deal with you anymore." And they now release him. Of course, probably during that time, Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't paying much attention about it because he was so focused on the World Cup. But now that he comes to his senses, I don't know. I think if he doesn't find any appealing offers, he's gonna go make some big money in the Middle East. I would, if I was him, I would have still tried to find a team in Portugal. At least he stay in the European League, like in the European League, and come back to his home country. I think Sporting would be the best fit because that's the team that he played in when he was young.
yeah, I mean, I think that'd be the best fit for him. From a selfish reason, I would love to see him come to the U.S. just because, the MLS retirement tour would be very, very crazy. I would love to see him handle American media. Because I can only imagine how that would go. Imagine him coming to like Atlanta United or Nashville SC.
I think if he goes to US, he would go for LA. Definitely, I think LAFC. He
Yeah.
would have joined Gareth Bale. But I think Messi is gonna be playing in the MLS when the 2026 World Cup kick in. I don't know if he's gonna be in the World Cup, but I think he's gonna be playing in the Major League Soccer.
I don't think if I were Messi, I wouldn't play in 2026. You just won it. Like no reason to come back at that point. You have accomplished it. You've accomplished everything there is. Now you just try to make. Now you just pad your retirement, and you try to figure out what you're going to do after it. Because in 26, with it being in the U.S., that's the time for you to come here and be an ambassador for the sport.
Yeah, like he'll definitely be a good ambassador for like Inter Miami because that's the thing the team's gonna go like because not only as a player, but I think he wants to be a partner with David Beckham, and I think that's gonna happen. I would say probably around 2024, 2025, and then when the World Cup kicks in, I think he's gonna be playing the U.S. promoting his team in the global stage, of course he still needs to depend if he wins or not, because the biggest promotion of all is win a tournament. Look what Gareth Bale has promoted LAFC by winning the MLS Cup.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for the MLS to get a player like that, even in their twilight years, will be pretty big for just for the brand. But definitely, though, I think this World Cup, it definitely just to me, it overall feels like a generational shift. It feels like now we've closed one era, and now we have opened it to a new era um, of soccer. So it's going to be a lot of fun. At least the good thing about having this World Cup in the winter is we only have to wait 5 less months until the 2026 World Cup, when it is here in the United States and also partially in Canada and Mexico. So I want to get your thoughts on this. There's been a lot of people online complaining about, so like in Qatar, right? So all the stadiums are super close together. People were able to see 2 matches a day, and people here are upset that that you won't be able to do that in the U.S. But I'm sorry, the country's huge.
Yeah, it's like what happened in Brazil and Russia. When you do tournaments in countries that are like continental, you probably are gonna have to pick cities. I'm bound to pick Atlanta, of course, because it's closer to you, and I want to have the experience with you. I'll try to get some Miami games, but I want to stay watching Atlanta. I think it's gonna be, or probably where Brazil plays. Hopefully, is in the East, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the West.
Yeah, hopefully
I
it's in the West. Like, what if they get assigned to a Mexico or Canada game? Like, because that always could happen.
Yeah, but I still want to be. Imagine if Brazil plays in Atlanta. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. For the U.S., they're probably going to play in New York, L.A., and Chicago. Would be my
Yeah,
guess. I doubt they'll be coming to Atlanta, but
but I think what I think they're gonna do is they're gonna pick each group a city, because there'll be so fewer games, like games like within the group, because each team's gonna play only 2 games in the group stage. I think you're gonna pick cities like one city's gonna be Group A, one city's gonna be Group B, and so on and so on. Because overall it's like 16 cities, right?
I think so. Yeah. So yeah, the U.S. then they'll be in New York probably. Yeah, I'm New York or L.A. Um, uh, Probably
Yeah,
technically I would put you in New York.
Yeah, 16 cities. So 16 cities to host the 2026. So I would bet it's going to be each group is going to have a city, because it's like 16 groups that are it's going to be yeah, it's going to be 16 groups with 3 teams. So I think you're going to have to pick a group and then just get the city, which is nice about it, because like if you think about it, when I remember in the 2014 in Brazil, like Brazil played in Sao Paulo, Fortaleza, and then Brasilia, which are really further apart. So then, if Brazil plays in one city, then you only have to stay in one place to watch your nation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we know Estadio Azteca is going to be Mexico. That's going to be a scene right there. When Mexico plays there for the World Cup, that's going to be
Oh,
incredible.
definitely. Yeah, I imagine the Mexico team's going to play Mexico, and Canada is going to be in Canada. That's for sure.
I mean,
I,
the U.S. and MetLife Stadium, that's going to be insane to watch. Trying to think. Let's see, what are the Canadian cities here? You have BMO Field, which is only 30,000, but you have also it's like Vancouver, or is the other Canadian option. I think they'll probably play Canada in Vancouver because that's the bigger stadium.
yeah.
So,
It's sadly that the Rose Bowl is not going to be in, because the Rose Bowl definitely deserved, because they were the host of the final in 1994, and it's such a historical stadium. But I understand it's not up to par to FIFA standards, and
right.
probably like SoFi Stadium deserves more. But you know, it would be amazing to have Brazil playing a World Cup final again in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the problem with modern American stadiums is that there's not as much character. And really, in all aspects of American architecture, like for example, on the street where my station is, they tore down a Taco Bell to now just rebuild a new Taco Bell. Like, man, like the old school Taco Bells, like the old school designs and how they've torn them down and they're redoing them in the modern design, the
Yeah.
minimal. I mean, I hate minimalism so much, and that's a whole separate non-sports topic. But it makes everything look so drab and boring. Um, and a stadium like the Rose Bowl is all time. It's classic. It's a example of classic American stadium design. So it's just kind of sad that we've lost that.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, no, yeah. It's like here in Brazil. Like since the 2014 World Cup, a lot of stadiums have been gentrified and become more arenas. Of course, it's beautiful. It's multi events. Host plenty of non-game events like concert and stuff. But I miss the old kind of Maracanã with what we call the geral, which was like the standing room of where fans could like watch the game on feet, and there were people like dressed up and on character, and it was like very popular. And now it's not as fun as used to, but it's the bad side of modern sports that we just have to get used to, because now, since it's just globalized sports, the character sometimes fades away.
Right. And it will be interesting too is that, a lot of these places have like public transits and ways to get to these games. When they come to the US, our public transit exactly isn't there in a lot of places. So that too, I think it'll be interesting to watch all the international fans coming in to deal with in the US.
but
So
but it's but I think I compare it to like US to Brazil. Like, of course, it's not gonna be as Brazil World Cup was not as big as the US, Mexico, and Canada World Cup, but I think fans will find their ways. I think it will probably will have like Marta in Atlanta will have like extra trains, or they'll find a special, a special way to transport fans and traffic and stuff. They will always if Brazil was able to host successfully a World Cup, I guarantee for you the U.S. can do it.
oh, absolutely. I just wish they would come to Tennessee, but I know we're not big enough outside of maybe Nashville. Could you imagine that, like the international audience? Like, imagine Brazil in Nashville, Brazilians on Broadway. That would be
I mean, Brazil national team, that the women's team played there, I think it was like 2019. But of course, it would have been fun to have Brazil there. But Atlanta is not that far, especially for you, Nick. Of course, you were probably a little bit. I guess Nashville is a little bit closer, but Atlanta is not that far.
I'm thinking about in terms of the party atmosphere. Like, which countries would have the most fun in Nashville? Like with the Cowboys and the honky tonks and
Oh, yeah, that's true. Brazilian fans will love some Nashville atmosphere. I
yeah.
mean, it will have the greatest combination of all Brazilian fans and the Nashville atmosphere.
I wonder who's gonna get stuck in Kansas City though. I mean, I've never been to KC. I understand it's a nice city, but so someone's going to get stuck at Kansas City out of all these different options. And then Boston, you go to Boston, the Patriots Stadium isn't even in Boston. It's an hour outside of Boston, in the middle of nowhere.
I
that
think I think probably some like Netherlands is gonna stay stuck in KC. Boston, it would have been fun to see like the Irish. Imagine if the Ireland makes the World Cup, they gotta play in New England. They have to. It would be so much fun because
England, the irony of England playing in Boston would be hilarious.
oh yeah, imagine yeah, and then we have a repeat of U.S. England in a World Cup playing in New England. We'll like be
Yeah,
the ultimate battle like after 1776.
and I'd place the Asian teams over in the West Coast, like a Japan, Australia, South Korea, and places like Seattle and San Francisco and LA, just because for one, that'll be easier time zone wise, and two, you have a lot more immigrants from those from Eastern Asia over on the West Coast compared to the rest of the country. So I think those teams would get larger turnouts in those cities on the West Coast.
Yeah, but again, it all depends on the draw that probably is going to be held up in December 2025. But already, I love the World Cup, even though sometimes it drives me nuts because there's a lot of, especially in Brazil, a lot of World Cup fans of people who don't watch soccer for 4 years, and then they become the biggest critics of anything related to Brazilian soccer. I hate that. That's the only like point that I hate about the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like that in America right now. A lot of people aren't going to go back and watch any soccer for 4 years. So, but hopefully, some people will go and check out like some of the Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, MLS, whatever. At least check out Champions League, because that's probably the closest thing you'll get every year.
Hopefully one day the Brazilian league. I know the Brazil doesn't do a good job of trying to promote because it's even hard to find where to watch. So how can you expect anybody in America to care about the Brazilian league where it's hard to find where to watch? That's the only.
Exactly. Just got to find places to watch. And MLS that'll be interesting when we start with Apple TV.
Yeah, and probably a lot of Brazilian fans are going to be kind of watching a little bit of MLS because probably one of their teams they're going to face in the FIFA Club World Cup might be Seattle Sounders. So and it's funny that Seattle Sounders today promote their away jersey that looks a lot like the Flamengo jersey. It looks very much like I think it's like a red kind of red. Like a little bit of red jersey. I particularly I'm trying to find a picture. I swear that I saw uh, something about it. Oh, it was also like a purple one. I thought, oh, it was red. It was red. Red with it looks a lot like the Flamingo. It looks like a lot of the Belgium jersey. So because it reminds of the uh, team that had the jersey in 2002.
Nice.
But let's move on to some NFL because we had some breaking news.
Yeah, so the Titans, it's been a rough month. They've lost 4 straight games, and now, ding, 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 we've lost our starting quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, according to Paul Kaharski, who can be hit or miss, but he's normally correct on player news. He says Ryan Tannehill is very likely out for this season due to his right ankle injury. So Ryan Tannehill done, it looks like, here in the 2022 season, which means our quarterback options are going to be Malik Willis, and now former Tennessee quarterback, VFL legend, the last quarterback at Tennessee to defeat Georgia, Joshua Dobbs. So I'm going to be honest with you. I am, even with Tannehill, I'm just going to be, I think Jacksonville's going to end up winning this division. Giants, we have no offensive line. Our wide receiver room is horrible. The defense played a lot better last week against the Chargers, but we now literally have no chance of having a passing game because Malik Willis in his previous appearances he had, I think, literally one good throw in 2 games. That's it. He just does not look comfortable at all in the pocket. And wouldn't it be something though if Joshua Dobbs came in and saved Tennessee? The irony after all these years.
I think it would be a great story because I don't remember any major player of the Tennessee Volunteers who kind of had some sort of a good run in the Tennessee Titans because that's the perfect combination because a lot of Tennessee Volunteer fans are Tennessee Titans fans. Like you're a big example, Nick.
Well, there's Albert Hainsworth. He had a couple of decent seasons, but he always had a lot of off the field issues that clouded that.
But it will be a great opportunity because I imagine Joshua Dobbs can be the starter because Malik Williams is still still fresh, still developing. I would start Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah, at least the good thing between both of them is they both are mobile. They both can run. So that will help them, I think, a lot. But we're going to have to rely on Derrick Henry. And if I'm just going to be honest, Derrick Henry is nowhere near what he used to be in terms of running back. And part of that is there's no passing game to decoy. Our offensive line is just injured to heck. It's just not blocking well right now, especially Dennis Daly. Dennis Daly, horrifically bad at left tackle, gets dominated every single play. Yeah, even though the Titans somehow pull off the AFC South, they play Houston this week. But even then, Houston's been playing a lot better. I don't know if Tennessee's going to win this game. So it's a yeah, it's tough sledding right now for the Tennessee Titans. But I will say this, but as a note, before we get into picks, and we're gonna actually before we get into picks, real quick, I do want to acknowledge the passing of Franco Harris. He was 72 years old. Um, he was a star, I believe he was a running back or receiver he was a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers back from 1972 to 1983. He played at Penn State. He is from New Jersey. Um, and he is best known for the immaculate reception. Basically, I don't know if you've ever seen this play, Gus, but it was a
No.
4th and 26 in a game between the Raiders and the Steelers. It was a 1972 AFC divisional playoff game. And what happened is Terry Bradshaw, the guy who's now the analyst on Fox, he throws it down the field. And what happens is the ball. Do you remember the 2013 Auburn Georgia game? How Georgia throws the ball down the field.
Oh, the bounce with these two players and the guy from Auburn catches it.
Yeah, it's a very similar play. In fact, if you want to pull it up real quick, it's called the immaculate reception. So Bradshaw, he is targeting another player, John Fuca. So it bounces off a Raider safety, and it bounces up in the air. And then Franco Harris, it looks like it's about to hit the ground, but Franco Harris catches the ball and is able to run it in for the touchdown and wins the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And just remember this. This is back when the Raiders and Steelers are big rivals. John Madden, literally, is the coach at this time for the Oakland Raiders, back when they were the Oakland Raiders. And the amount of Hall of Famers in this game are just unbelievable. There was 3, 8, 11, 15, 19. There's 20 Hall of Famers as a part of this game. So it is it's one of the craziest plays in NFL history, probably the greatest play in NFL history, and one of the greatest plays in NFL lore.
I mean, definitely he was an important player for that Steeler generation that was very successful in the 70s, and that catch who always lived in uh, Pennsylvania, especially in the Pittsburgh area. And of course, my condolences to his family. Definitely a great career, a great guy. Definitely, Franco Harris will always be remembered by his legendary plays in the National Football League. But before picks, I want to talk about, a couple of games from last week. And first of all, you said it was a Raiders miracle. I call it a New England blunder.
Yeah,
A New England blunder. There was no miracle about it. It was like a Hail Mary throw. It was New England, and I loved what Colin Cowherd said about it. It was just to prove that in a matter of like 4 years, New England Patriots went from the smartest team in the league, from the most clueless team in the league, bottom of everything, and that place, just was a example of how things in New England are not being well run. And of course, Bill Belichick was a legendary coach. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but I think his time there is already expired, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's no reason for it. If you didn't see this. So let me set the situation for the listeners here. It's 24-24. There's no time left. And obviously, in that situation, if you're New England, you've caught a ball, you're running down the field, you're probably not going to score a touchdown. But the worst that's going to happen here is you go to overtime. But for some inexplicable reason, they start throwing the ball backwards. And they end up fumbling it. It gets intercepted by a Raider, and he takes it back for a touchdown. It's just so stupid. And it's crazy because I remember last week I was talking about this being the Belichick versus McDaniels and how I called McDaniels the worst head coach in the league. But it's crazy. Belichick managed to have his players managed to be dumber than Josh McDaniels. Just an unbelievable blunder, as you said. And I don't think they're ever going to win another title under Belichick. I think Brady's won that argument for sure at this point, and they got some stuff to fix in New England because I think they got to find a way to get some excitement back there because it wasn't like they were playing great in that game anyway. That defense was not good at all against a Raiders team that can't get out of their own way. And, you know, outside
And
of
it
just
was,
a crazy
and
blunder.
and it was ironic though, the guy who intercepted the ball and did a walk off touchdown was Chandler Jones, defensive end, who won Super Bowl with New England, was there for 4 seasons when it ended up being released. How ironic was the former Patriot caught the ball to win that game.
Yeah, I mean, it is ironic, but Bill Belichick's always felt like he could just do whatever he wanted with player personnel. But it's finally catching up with him, I think. He's let a lot of really good players go over the years. And at some point, you run out of good players when you let them all go.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, and it's harder to find new players when you can't draft well. I mean, one thing that Bill Belichick throughout his career that he couldn't do well was drafting players.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because he drafts players like Kyle Fuller, well, not Kyle Fuller, but God, who's the player from Lenore Rhine that he drafted? Kyle Duggar, like players that no one else has ever heard of, or like last year, my boy from Chattanooga, Cole Strange, like literally Sean McVay. He was on a ESPN show, and he was like, "Oh, I thought he was going to be there in the 4th round." And Bill Belichick picks him in the 1st round. Like Bill Belichick makes picks like he thinks he's smarter than everyone else, but really, it's just constantly being stupid over and over and over again.
yeah, like Matt Patricia for offensive coordinator when he clearly the a defensive coach. So I think Robert Kraft has to let him go. Of course, he has. If I was him, I would have announced before the end of the season, throw a big homage, honor him his last home game. But I think it's time for him to enjoy vacations in Florida. Hopefully he'll still be alive for his Canton celebration for the because he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. Those discussions
Absolutely.
about.
Yeah, but as you said, I agree. It is time for him to move on to the next stage in his life of retirement. Also, speaking of an embarrassing performance. I can't even do this without laughing. And obviously, I don't just go on here and hate on the Indianapolis Colts like some people that we know do. Some people hate the Indianapolis Colts with all their fiber and being, especially in the Titans fan base. But 33 nothing at halftime. The Colts led 33 to nothing at halftime against the Vikings, and they lost. The largest blown lead in NFL history. I'm sorry. 33 to nothing. How does that happen? How do you blow a 33-point lead? Oh, man. 33-point lead. I mean, and Matt Ryan. I mean, is there a more unlucky player in the history of the NFL? I mean, it wasn't like 28 to 3 was bad enough, but you also blew a 33 to nothing lead as well.
I mean, he's a talented player, but I guess he's getting a fame for being a choker.
Yeah, I mean, he's the most famous choker of all time. I mean, the Heimlich maneuver can't save him at this point. Yeah, there's no amount of Heimlich maneuvers that can save Matt Ryan at this point. I mean, it's just he's forever known as the choker. You can't have a big lead with him.
Yeah, yeah. I guess he always want to be a guy who comes from behind win.
Yeah. I mean, for the Colts, at least, obviously a roster helps them with their draft stock, but they're going to have to do some rebuilding. I mean, think about this. We've gone from the span of a year with the Titans and Colts being like, oh, who's going to win the AFC South every single year or two? Both of these teams are going to have to do rebuilds. I mean, think about that. We have the script has flipped so fast about the Colts and the Titans. I don't think it's no longer a Titans Colts division. I think it's now the Jacksonville division.
Wow, really?
Jacksonville is absolutely ascending, and you know, the Titans are going to, at least on offense, they're going to have to rebuild. Now, defensively, maybe they'll be able to avoid a rebuild there, but Tennessee's ever going to be truly a contender. Again, they got to rebuild the offense, and that's going to take a couple of cycles with someone who knows how to draft. The Colts are going to have to do some serious retooling, especially figuring out their quarterback situation. They're going to have to finally invest in one. Personally, I really hope they draft Will Levis. That would be an absolutely incredible pick. And you can tell by the laughing. I think whoever picks Will Levis is making a huge mistake. I really don't understand this. Mel Kiper has Will Levis as his number one overall quarterback next year. I don't understand how anyone with a functioning brain and the two sets of functioning eyes who watched any amount of college football this year thinks Will Levis is the number one quarterback in the league in this draft. I've literally watched Will Levis in person this year in Neyland Stadium, not even throw against 100 yards against a horrible Tennessee pass defense, and let alone 3 weeks later, I went all the way to Columbia, South Carolina, and watched Spencer Rattler throw for 600 yards. And Will Levis is the number one quarterback in the league. I mean, what are these draft scouts seeing? I know.
I would say the intangibles would be the famous intangibles, because the tangibles doesn't favor Will Leaves. Like you can argue that Hendon Hooker deserves to be higher in the draft than Will Leaves.
Hendon Hooker actually won big games. I mean, what big games did Will Levis win?
I think Hendon Hooker will be Lamar Jackson kind of pick. Whoever drafted it will be a steal.
I mean, I'll say this: whoever picks Hendon Hooker, that's my second team. But now behind the Titans, I will follow you where I will follow whatever team and picks Hendon Hooker and gives him a shot to play.
Maybe it'll be the Titans. Who knows?
That would be something. I honestly that we might need Jalen Hyatt more. Because we're going to be picking mid rounds. Hyatt, I think, would be a bigger immediate fix for the Titans because Hyatt would be a starting wide receiver right now for the Tennessee Titans. Like he would be. He would start immediately. And think about him on one side, Treylon Burks, who's had some flashes when he's been healthy this year. That would actually be a pretty nice young receiving core. Then you could just get a couple of veteran pieces. And I think you will be able to fix that room up. But you definitely need to draft a receiver this year. And Jalen Hyatt, I think, right there in the middle of the first round would be an interesting pick. So, and he really he's that deep threat that the Titans just don't have right now. So I would love that personally. But also I wouldn't mind if we went offensive lineman either. Just there's a lot that we need to do here for the Titans. And now with this Ryan Tannehill injury, is it now to pull the plug on him? Because, I mean, after last year, after the Cincinnati game, I think I mostly was like, I'm done with Ryan Tannehill. But now it's like, legitimately, are we done with Ryan Tannehill? I mean, I feel like whatever hope there was for the Tannehill era now is kind of dead.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when Titans got him, there were no much expectations. That's why probably a lot of people were like surprised when he did so well and got the franchise to the playoffs. I think because there were no, but when the expectations came, especially last season, when the Titans were the number one seed at home, he blundered. That's why fans don't trust him, and I think they never will.
Yeah, I mean, I always will think of that Cincinnati game. I mean, that game will define Ryan Tannehill. I mean, granted, I'll say this, what he was able to do that last half of 2019 and throughout most of the 2020 regular season, I will always be appreciative of that. But, the two 2020 playoff wins, that I put that more on Derrick Henry and the defense. And then, the two playoff losses there, but the Baltimore in 21 and then what we saw this year with the Bengals. I mean, I put that on Ryan Tannehill. He just, with A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, just was not able to perform under prime time. Just wasn't able to do it. He wasn't good enough. And, some people aren't good enough, and that's fine. But it's time for the Titans to find someone who can, and that's going to be hard. But I was hoping maybe Malik Willis could develop into something, and maybe he still can. I have my doubts that he can. And, Is a Hendon Hooker a solution? I don't know. Because I mean, I say I love Hendon Hooker. I've loved what he's done for the Big Orange, but there are questions about him at the next level. How much was of the success was the system? Because Josh Heupel's system is incredible. It makes every quarterback that goes through it look really, really good. Um, I don't know. Let's have to wait and see about all of that. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the draft, but let's get into some NFL picks.
Yeah, you won big last week 15, 11-7.
Hmm.
Probably the only pick that I'm proud of was the Raiders pick because you picked the Patriots, so you're I was probably you were right for most of the game, but then when it came to the last play, I got it right. But overall, you got 11-7.
I feel like I've won like 3 or 4 straight weeks now.
Yeah, you're on a winning streak.
Yeah, we're doing well. Of course, me picking against the Titans every week has been paying off very well recently.
I picked the Titans to win. It didn't work this time.
Yeah. All right. And also, too, a note for the audience as well. So, unlike in a normal week, so since Christmas is on Sunday this week, the majority of the games will be on Saturday on Christmas Eve. So, just keep that in mind for the audience. There's still a Thursday night game. There's free games on Sunday, but they're all standalone games. And you have a normal Monday night football game. So
why they did that?
Well, it goes back to historic. It's a rule. Because I have to really relook this up. It's something to do with back when they were deciding to initially play on Christmas or not. Whoever was running the NFL, they had like a specific religious reason for why, or that they didn't want to play from nighttime on Christmas Eve to nighttime on Christmas Day. Now they've kind of modified that, but it's partially a logistics thing. It's partially a partially a religious thing.
Yeah, but I guess it probably makes sense because the NFL now is not even gonna steal the NBA thunder because NBA was the Christmas juice, but now the NFL.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to say that, that in any normal year, yes, but then you look at the matchups this year on Christmas Day, I mean, preseason, right? Like, for example, we have Broncos Rams here at 4:30. That preseason was an amazing matchup, but as we know now, they're both 4-10, and neither one of those teams are going to the playoffs. I mean, Sunday night you have Tom Brady, sure, but against the Kyler Murray-less Arizona Cardinals. The only decent matchup on Sunday is Packers-Dolphins, but Packers very much a long shot at the playoffs right now. The Dolphins kind of in free fall at the moment, but an interesting game more for the Dolphins there. And then Monday night, why are the Colts on prime time again?
Yeah, Colts are always.
Okay, why did they put the Indianapolis Colts on prime time like 4 times the last 5 weeks? Who decided this? I mean, even in our best estimations, they were at best like a wild card team.
Yeah.
I don't know. The primetime scheduling has been horrible, but at least the Thursday night game to me is actually kind of interesting. So let's start off with that. The 6-8 Jacksonville Jaguars at the 7-7 New York Jets. A game here where it feels like both teams are going in opposite directions. But a really important game for both teams because both teams still, I mean, the Jets have an outside shot at the AFC wild card. And the Jaguars, they're creeping up on the Tennessee Titans, only 1 game away from, perhaps taking the AFC South. What do you think is going to happen there in the Meadowlands?
I mean, the big question is who's going to be the quarterback because what as Mike White has not cleared, I guess going to be Zach Wilson back in the starting lineup. And do you think Robert Saleh trusts him because the fans doesn't look like they trust Zach Wilson.
No, and what's going to be crazy about this, right? Because I mean, this is the ultimate 1v2 pick, right? Because it's Zach Wilson versus the guy that was picked right in front of him, Trevor Lawrence, who has looked amazing. I mean, what Jacksonville did on Sunday was super duper impressive. I mean, the last 2 weeks, he's just been on an absolute tear. And right now, it felt like Jacksonville is a team that no one wants to face.
I mean, they're on a 2 game winning streak, and if they have a, as you said, they probably right now look more favorable favored to win the AFC South than the Titans.
Yeah, because we
And
still got to go to Jacksonville next week. But I will be pulling hard for the Jets here because we need someone to kind of try to deflate the Jacksonville Jaguars if possible.
I I'm gonna go with the Jaguars, even though I'm a Jets fan. I think, even though they're on the road, they're on the on the streak. I think Peterson finally find the rhythm of his offense. I pick the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Same here. I'm picking Jacksonville as well. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to go and have another interesting performance. I mean, really, the X factor here is that Jaguar second or the Jets secondary, who have been great all year. Like that Jets defense is awesome. Can they disrupt him enough to give their offense a chance in this game? That'll be the key for the Jets. I mean, who would have thought that Jaguars Jets would be like one of the most interesting games of the week? But it is. It is one of the most interesting games of the week. So it's really good to see. It's good to see some different matchups matter here late in the season. But
It's a proof that both franchises improved a lot from the past, like what, 2 weeks.
oh, for sure. So yeah, I'll go with Jacksonville as well. All right, and now
So
to Saturday.
yeah, the 3-11 Bears goes to the host the 11-3 Bills. I mean, Buffalo has not looked impressive, I'll say. I think they got lucky against Miami. I think if probably wasn't the blizzard, they probably would have lose. But still, they're on a 5 game winning streak. You know, they are the favorite, but I wouldn't count the Bears out. They gave really trouble to the Eagles.
They did, but Justin Fields is kind of hurt right now. And at a certain point, you have to ask if you're Chicago, how much more beat up do you want him to get? Because you're not making the playoffs. You're 3-11. You got to save him for the future, right? Because, I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of rebuilding in the offseason to give Justin Fields a chance moving forward. I think the Bills here are going to win this game. And I think they will do it by double digits.
Yeah, I got the Bills as well. I think it's not gonna be as I think it's not gonna be double digit, but I think they're gonna win. So next up is the 6-8 Cleveland Browns, still trying to fight for a playoff spot with versus the 5-9 New Orleans Saints. I mean, I think was the first win for Deshaun Watson last week. Was of course a very defensive game. The Ravens only held to 3 points. Deshaun Watson threw the touchdown with the home debut for Watson. I don't know. I think Cleveland has more on the line. I'm gonna go with the Browns.
I'm going to agree too. And I remember how preseason we were like talking about our. I was showing you that website where you could pick every single game. And I remember I did it about 2 or 3 times. And I remember I had a scenario where the Browns had a losing record, but they pulled off like 5 or 6 straight games in a row because their end of season schedule is not the most difficult in the world. And they sneak into the playoffs. And could that scenario be playing out in real life? Because that was actually kind of crazy when I predicted it. Because I knew that Deshaun Watson would be coming in late in the season, and he's obviously he's not looked good, but he's still we know that he deep down he has that potential in him, right? Because we've seen it before. Yeah, I agree. I like the Browns here.
Yeah, so we both pick the Cleveland Browns. I mean, but I think, and if the Browns win this game, the question is, could they make the playoffs? And because we were like, oh, maybe Deshaun Watson should sit in the end of the season. I think now they're gonna go all in.
Yeah, because here's the end. So the end here they have Saints at Commanders and at the Steelers. So those are their final 3 games. You know, Commanders is your toughest game there.
That's
So,
true.
you know,
So
they could.
next one.
I mean,
So
how much
next
do you want to have back that Jets game from week 2 or whatever it was, where they blew the 13-point lead? How critical is that loss now?
That's true. That's a big point.
Anyway,
Next up is the 7-7 your Tennessee Titans versus the 1-12-1 Houston Texans. Do you know how much tickets are going for this game, Nick?
so it's gonna be like 2 degrees in Nashville Saturday. It's not going to be a game. If you don't have a scarf, you don't have a head mask, you don't want to try to go to this game. And with as bad as times are playing right now, it's got to be for, I mean, well under what you normally would have.
$6, the lowest, the
Oh my
cheapest
God,
ticket.
$6. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Wonder how much. Okay, I'm starting to look at them now. How much can you get them for a lower ticket? $38 for lower. I mean, I do have to work Saturday, and it's gonna be like -10 out there, and
I,
it's gonna be a terrible football.
yeah, I guess the tickets are cheap because more of the weather or more of the performance of both of those teams
Oh,
throughout the season.
I mean, because here's the thing: if the Titans were 14-0, tickets wouldn't be that low.
Yeah,
Like if the Titans were 14-0, they wouldn't be that low. But the Titans are not 14-0; they're 7-7. They have 4 straight losses, and the whole team's hurt. And the Texans, they've been playing well. You know that they almost beat the Cowboys, they almost beat the Chiefs. I'm extremely tempted to go with the Texans here, and you think I'm probably about to pick the Texans. But I will say this: Derrick Henry owns the Houston Texans. If and all else fails, if everything else goes wrong, Derrick Henry shows up to own the Houston Texans. I mean, he literally beat them single-handedly a couple of weeks ago in Houston.
yeah.
And
I remember when he scored an incredible touchdown against the Houston Texans. I think was the 2017 season. So I
well,
know how.
I think you're talking about the 2020 where he went 94 yards or something like that. That
No. I know that one, but also in 2017 he scored a really beautiful touchdown. I wasn't that game in 2017. I even have the video of him running to get and celebrating with the fans. That was, but I picked the Titans. I think still I think Mike Vrabel will find ways to beat the Titans. The Texans, I think I picked the Titans.
I begrudgingly am gonna pick the Titans. Even though there's a lot of alarm bells to me that would indicate take Houston here, I just I want to believe that they can find a way to right the ship and not just completely fall apart. Because I still think there's some fight. I still think there's some hope. I mean, they played a lot better last week than they did the week before. I mean, they had a chance to win that game at the end. Just Justin Herbert made some big throws there at the end to win it for Los Angeles. But I mean, the defense played amazing in that game. I mean, holding LA to 17 points. They didn't. They turned it. They made a Herbert throw. Was it 3 interceptions in that game? Um, so, they played better themselves. So I'm going to go with the Titans.
Yeah, but I think probably Texans. I would have bet. Do you still would bet over or under -3?
Well, if we win, I'm gonna go. I'll take the I'll take them to cover. I'll take the Titans to cover here, -3. And also, got to remember too, with it being so cold, imagine trying to tackle Derrick Henry in -10 degrees.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's not going to be fun. I mean, this should be when Derrick Henry is at his most effective in this game.
that's true. Probably a big advantage for the Titans running back. So next one is the 11-3 Kansas City Chiefs hosting the 7-7 Seattle Seahawks. I mean, Seattle is the ultimate 500 team. I mean, they are the 500 team in terms of winning and losses, and they scored 355 points, and the points against is 355. So there are zero in terms of point differential. how average is the Seattle Seahawks team right now?
I mean, here's the thing. Considering where I thought they were going to be, still 7-7 is still really good for them.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I'm not saying it's bad.
I mean, it is kind of disappointing though how they've kind of fallen apart and how Geno Smith has kind of regressed to what he thought he was going to be. But I think this is still a really interesting game because KC, I mean, they really had to go to overtime to beat Houston. You know that. I mean, it feels like the Chiefs are off right now, and this almost reminds me a little bit of last year. Remember the Chiefs, even though they were winning games, they weren't dominating like they were back in 2019, 2020. And we saw what happened there in the second half against the Bengals last year and what happened in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers. It almost feels like this Chiefs team is destined for a similar fate this year. And I wouldn't be shocked if we were against a team like Buffalo. Right now, if Buffalo and KC play, I think Buffalo would win that game. But for this game, I am going to take KC. But if I'm a Chiefs fan, I want to start seeing some dominant performances. And I want to start seeing some dominant performances now because otherwise I'd be getting worried about January.
Yeah, you don't want that. And but I think Seattle can. I think Seattle. I would have bet under. I think Seattle's gonna give trouble. I think it's gonna be a probably a one score game, but I still take the Chiefs.
I would agree with that. I would definitely take Seattle to cover.
And you take the Chiefs to win.
Yes.
So next one is the 11-3 Minnesota Vikings versus the 8-5-1 New York Giants. I mean, I know it was a miracle win, great comeback, but the Minnesota Vikings are on free fall right now. They lost to the Detroit Lions by double digits, and they almost got ran out of the stadium. I mean, what that was happening in the first half, and then they came back. Do you think how worried should uh, Minnesota fans should be because of the last two games performances?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Outside of a great performance in Buffalo, I mean, remember this before that Buffalo games. Remember what I was saying about the Minnesota Vikings? I was not convinced by Minnesota. Look at their games this year. Look at their results. They've been a lot of bad teams by very small margins. A lot of one possession victories against the likes of the Chicago Bears, for example. And we saw just how bad the Minnesota Vikings can be in that first half. I mean, the mistakes, the turnovers, the blocked punt. I mean, come on, guys, this is the NFL. You can't have blocked punts. And then, and here's the thing with Kirk Cousins. At certain points, he's gonna disappear. In that first half, he didn't show up. And the second half they came back and won in a miracle game, but you shouldn't need a 33-point comeback against the 4-9-1 Indianapolis Colts. I'm just going to be real. Minnesota to me is a complete fraud of a team. I think they're going to lose the first round of the playoffs against whoever they play. I will go on record right now. Minnesota is not winning a game in the playoffs.
But this team reminds me of the 2020 Steelers.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of me. If you think about it, in 2020, the Steelers were undefeated, I think, for almost 14 weeks.
Oh, yeah. And then what happened to them? The Browns come in and just eviscerate them. Remember, it was 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. And that was that for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, so I think this Minnesota team reminds me a lot of that. And I think if Minnesota, as you said, would lose in the first round of playoffs, I think fans will literally start asking if Kirk Cousins should be the quarterback going forward.
Because then right now, what if we had San Francisco and Minnesota, which very well could be a second round matchup if Minnesota wins our first round game. The 49ers will beat the Vikings by at least 2 scores.
And not only that, I think the 49ers have probably a better plan, and it'll be imagine Brock Purdy, third string quarterback, defeating Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I mean that would be pretty much a gut check moment. With all of those weapons that Minnesota has, the best receiver in the league right now, Minnesota, one of the top 10 running backs in Dalvin Cook. yet, Kirk Cousins, I mean, you pay him like a top 10 quarterback. You expect him to play like a top 10 quarterback. And sometimes he does. Sometimes he doesn't, though. And, it's just not consistent enough. But hey, he'll have a chance to silence me and all the other doubters here in a few weeks. But I'm not convinced. Prove me wrong, Minnesota, because I would love to see the Vikings win. I think they have great fans. I like their atmosphere. And like them and the Bills, I want to see one of those two teams win a Super Bowl. But they're going to have to prove me wrong. I don't believe in the Minnesota Vikings. But let's see, who do they even play this week? The Giants. That's right.
The Giants.
We got so wrapped up in the Vikings. I mean, hey, congratulations to the New York Football Giants. Big win last week against Washington Commanders. And hey, that defense is playing lights out. And Daniel Jones is just doing enough. And they're very well on their way right now to going to the playoffs. What a great turnaround season for them. And you know what? I think, coming off the exhilaration of that win, I think the Vikings had to use up a lot of energy to win last week. I think the New York Football Giants are going to go to Minnesota and get a W. I like the Giants here to pull off the upset.
Oh, I'm gonna go with the Vikings. I still think they can find a win, but I think they're gonna finish strong in the regular season. It's just I don't trust them in the postseason, especially because of the quarterback.
Yeah.
And next one is the 7-7 New England Patriots versus the 10-4 Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, we just talked about how the Patriots butchered a game that probably could have gone easily his way, but the Bengals as well is not playing best football right now. There's a lot of doubts about the Bengals offense, and I don't know.
Running game right now. The running game has disappeared. I mean, Joe Mixon 11 carries for 21 yards. I mean, just overall, they're not getting the running game going. But you do have to give Joe Burrow credit, even though he had no help from the running attack. He was able to go out there and throw 4 touchdown passes and do what a superstar quarterback is supposed to do. So, and I think right now what the Bengals are able to do is really good. I mean, obviously the offense, they are able to win in a lot of different ways. Their defense is playing really, really well. When they turned over Tom Brady twice, and here in this game, when you look at the 7-7 Patriots, I feel like that game last week was an absolute deflator. That's a type of loss that a team doesn't get back off the mat from. And I don't know if Bill Belichick has any more of his magic left. So I really do like the Bengals there.
Me too. I got the Bengals as well. I think I think the even though they still have chances to go to playoffs, I don't see them going the New England Patriots. I just don't. Next one in Charlotte, North Carolina, the 5-9 Panthers host the 7-7 Lions, which I mean, the Lions are the hottest team right now.
This game is huge for both teams.
Huge, yeah.
I mean, imagine the Jaguars, Jets, and the Lions, Panthers both are important playoff games, potentially. Imagine that.
Yeah, because the Panthers are still looking out on the division. They're one game away potentially if the Buccaneers would lose and they win, they would tie the division.
Yeah, just I'll say this: the Lions, man, that offense has been really good the entire year. But the difference for the Lions now is their defense. They actually have a defense now, and that's making all the difference for the Detroit Lions. We know it's such a gutsy win against the Jets last week, and they can win in a lot of different ways. And I think Dan Campbell's really got that team buying in, and I really like them. I really like this team, and going back to my preseason predictions, the Lions were one of those teams where I kept on coming back to them being at least a fringe playoff team, and I kind of didn't believe it. I kind of thought maybe I was going crazy picking them, but there's just something about the Detroit Lions this year. And I think their role keeps on going. I really like the Lions to win here. Think about it, they're 6-1 in their last 7 games. I think they go to 7-1 in their last 8 games.
Yeah, I picked the Lions one as well. I think they're on the streak. I think I don't see the Panthers, winning this game, even though they're playing at home. Next one is the 9-5 Baltimore Ravens versus this 5-9 Atlanta Falcons. I mean, the Ravens, I was expecting them more, of course, with all the injuries. Lamar Jackson's dealing, of course, is harder, and and there will be no talking staff changes, in the season, and I don't know. I think the Ravens, because the struggling offense is noticeable, but of course, being without Lamar Jackson definitely helps for that.
Yeah, and I was just looking. I was just pressing on the game for this. Guess how low the tickets are here for this game? There's
I I think it was like what, $3?
yeah. I mean, the weather is messing everything up. I mean, I don't think I can understand how cold it's going to be. I don't know if you've seen the weather forecast for the U.S. this weekend. It's going to get so cold everywhere, unless
That's
you're
why.
in California.
That's why the. Do you know where the most expensive tickets are?
In Florida, in LA.
Yeah, in
Right.
Miami. I know, the Packers always attracted the crowd, especially because of Aaron Rodgers, but the Dolphins have the most expensive tickets, of course, because there's not going to be snow.
And the Vikings have pretty expensive tickets too, just because it's a dome. So because they expect that weather in Minneapolis. So they're the only place that's able to handle it.
Yeah, for example, Steelers. I don't know if they can handle. Uh,
Imagine
Ravens.
imagine if we had college football playoff games this weekend, and we had a playoff game in Neyland Stadium where it was like 5 degrees in Knoxville.
Uh, Fans will find ways to heat themselves
I mean, we
up.
would still show up. Like Tennessee fans wouldn't care, but you know, I mean, but man,
But speaking of the actual game itself, I'll take the Ravens.
I'm actually going to pick the upset for no real rhyme or reason here. And when you get to the Christmas week, you always start seeing some wild upsets that throw the playoff race into chaos. And you remember the Falcons, they're also only a game back of the Buccaneers. They have a lot to play for. I don't know why. I don't know. We have no real rhyme or reason. Give me Atlanta.
Yeah. Oh wow. I mean, Atlanta is not playing its best football. They lost 3 in a row, but maybe now they can get back. Because if they win, I mean, if the Falcons, the Saints, and the Panthers win, and the Buccaneers would lose, the division would be literally tied.
Yeah. Which I don't think it's going to happen because I picked the Saints and Panthers to both lose. But, you know, don't be surprised when the Ravens are so injured right now that they could also experience a late season collapse. And here's the thing with John Harbaugh, and I've been critical of him for a long time at this point. And just when you get to late season John Harbaugh, he's almost kind of like Cliff Kingsbury in a bit, where it feels like the teams have been falling off a ton. And if it wasn't for the Super Bowl he won in 2012, he would have been fired a long time ago.
Oh yeah, that's true. I don't know. I think Lamar Jackson probably saved his time there.
Oh, for
Finally, Lamar Jackson extended his stay. He extended his time as the Ravens coach.
yeah, Lamar Jackson deserves so much better though.
Oh yeah, I mean, but people didn't believe him. Remember, people want him to play as a wide receiver.
Yeah. All right. All right. What's interesting here is there's only two 4 p.m. games here. So we have 7-6-1, the Washington Commanders going all the way out to the 10-4 San Francisco 49ers. I think this one here, I mean, the Washington Commanders have been playing good this year. I think this one's going to be a blowout. I like the Niners.
Yeah, I like the Niners too. I think they're finding it. Brock Purdy looks better every week. I think I'll take the Niners as well. I think they're still in the fight for. I know they got the division already, but they're still fighting for the number one seed. So they have to win this game. And speaking of number one seed, the current number one seed, the Philadelphia Eagles, are going to Arlington, Texas, to face the 10-4 Dallas Cowboys. And this game is huge because the Cowboys still hopeful for the division. I know it's a long shot, and probably if the Eagles win, then the seal the deal. Because if the Cowboys would win, they'll be 11-4, and the Eagles will be 13-2. Will be a 2-game differential.
Yeah, and the big question here is, will Jalen Hurts play? He's been questionable all week. He hasn't been practicing. And, I'm going to be real. If you're Philadelphia, I don't think I would play Jalen Hurts this week. If you have any questions all about his health, you still got that large lead for both the division and for the 1 seed. No reason to really risk his health right now. So I think they're going to rest him. I think the Cowboys are going to end up winning this game just because the Eagles are going to be resting a little bit.
I'll take the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Of all them Cowboys.
Right.
Even though they're still not convincingly good enough maybe to get to the Super Bowl, I still think they gonna finish strong in the regular season.
Yeah. So on Saturday Night Football, 8:15. This is interrupting my So on Saturday, on Christmas Eve, I always watch It's a Wonderful Life. So I'll probably be skipping this one to adhere to my tradition there. But we have the 6-8 Raiders and the 6-8 Steelers, and of course, ironically, this is the famous matchup that Franco Harris, caught his immaculate reception in. So they were going to honor him. Actually, it was the 50th anniversary this year, so they were going to honor him at the game, and unfortunately, he passed away. So I know it's going to be an emotional scene on Heinz Field on Saturday night, and I think the Steelers are going to win one for one of their most legendary players. I think they're going to win it for Franco Harris, and the Steelers are going to win.
Just a quick update: is the Acrisure Stadium now?
Oh yeah, I totally forget about that.
No, it's okay. It's just Heinz Field is so in our minds because of all the history.
Yeah, I mean, Acrisure Stadium, and the most forgotten about sponsor in the history of sponsors.
And I'll take the Steelers too. Mike Tomlin got to fight. He is 6-8. If he loses, threatens his never had a losing season legacy because
it feels like he keeps on keeping that hope alive. There's something about that.
But he got to win this game because after this, there's only 2 weeks left. So if he loses this game, it's gonna be his first losing season.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it feels like they've gotten better throughout the season. All right. So Christmas Day. Oh, I picked the Steelers.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So we're now at Christmas Day. So starting off 1 p.m., Packers Dolphins is going to be the only good game really on Christmas Day. Aaron Rodgers to still have an outside shot at 6-8 at the playoffs, going down to the 8-6 Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa just has not looked anywhere near as good recently. I'm going to pick an upset here. I like the Packers to win on Christmas Day.
I mean, they got to win to keep their playoff contention alive. Because as of today, the Packers are 10th, but only probably like a game and a half away from the Commanders. So they got to win this game.
Yeah, and I think the Commanders are going to lose here. And if you look right in front of them, I think Seattle's going to lose. I think Detroit's going to win, though. So I think they host Detroit the last week of the season. So, if they can win out, they'll have a shot.
But I'll pick the Dolphins. I think they go back to the winning column. I pick the Dolphins.
All right. And in CBS, the CBS executives are absolutely just furious. Bull. 4-10 Denver, 4-10 Los Angeles. Was supposed to be the most amazing Christmas game. CBS secured this game, thought they had it made, and it's now just the absolute most disappointing primetime game you ever could have had. I'm going to pick Baker Mayfield to win.
Both are eliminated.
I have to look at I'll be watching NBA instead of this one. But give me the Rams in a game no one's going to watch.
Yeah, I'll pick the Rams too. I mean, in the quarterback matchup, Baker Mayfield versus Russell Wilson.
Is Russell Wilson even going to play? I think he's going to be back this week, but man, just brutal, brutal for CBS. Indirectly, my employer. No, not directly my employer, but indirectly. Also for NBC on Christmas night, Buccaneers Cardinals. Again, game the Cardinals don't. They're not going to have Kyler Murray. Just yeah, not a great primetime game here. I do think Tom Brady will find a way to win this game though for the Buccaneers. They will do just enough. I like the Bucks.
I think the Cardinals can pull the upset. I'll take the Cardinals.
Ooh, that would be interesting. All right, Monday night.
Oh, Monday Night Football.
The aftermath. There hasn't been a good Monday Night Football game in like 2 months now. It feels like, but Chargers Colts, Chargers. Indianapolis had kind of like the Patriots had one of those you can't recover from losses. I think the Colts are done in the year. Give me the Chargers.
I'll take Chargers too. I think as you play out perfectly, like after a loss like that, they're just all over the place.
Yes, absolutely. So that is NFL Week 16. We only have 2 more weeks after this to pick, and then we'll be getting into playoff time. So that is going to be pretty awesome to see. All right, so quickly going through some of the rest of the topics here. Today in college football, it was signing day. Of course, you have the usual suspects up at the top. If I pull up CBS here real quick, of course, you got Alabama, Georgia, Miami at the top. Tennessee at number 10. So potentially our first top 10 recruiting class in 7 years. Coming off a top 10 year anyway. Sign the Hype has this program going in the right direction. We pretty much landed everyone that we had already signed, including a big transfer from BYU. The captain of their defense, I think his name was Killian Phillips, I believe. He had 190 tackles. So going to add on a lot for this team. Anything that you saw, Gus, from signing day that I think is noteworthy? Because, I mean, it's your usual suspects. Although Miami, I mean, being as high as they are at number 4, I think it's kind of surprising after the year that they had. Because I have serious questions on whether or not they can perform moving forward.
I think, of course, the most notable thing was the signing of Arch Manning. Now officially, of course, he committed to it, but now he is signed for the Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, and we'll see if he can be the next generation, be an elite Manning in the modern era. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see. Also, just speaking on the college football as well, we've seen the first week of bowl season. I'll be very honest, I haven't watched a ton of it. I know Florida got absolutely demolished in their game. Probably the most notable result so far. Oregon State, they lost to Oregon State 30-3. They didn't have most of their starters for that game, so I don't know how much you can really read into that, but still kind of a hilarious score and kind of pathetic. They had to kick a field goal at the end just to avoid a shutout. But really, out of that, not too many like notable results. Shout out the probably the one game that I did notice was the Celebration Bowl. Jackson State losing to North Carolina Central, and my one comment on that game is people are expecting Colorado to be elite with Deion Sanders next year because he's bringing a lot of players from Jackson State. But they can't beat North Carolina Central. So I just don't know where the disconnect is there for people.
I think it's a lot of flash, but now, of course, Deion Sanders, I think, deserved to leave Jackson State with a title, but that did not happen. But of course, Colorado fans look that game a bit worried because a lot of Jackson State players are going to play for Colorado. Especially if you think you mentioned a couple episodes ago on his introductory press conference. Literally, his son, who was still a Jackson State player, were there, and he was like, "My son's gonna be here in Colorado."
Yeah, and they're gonna have to play a little bit better because USC, Oregon, um, TCU, they're on their schedule next year. Nebraska, those teams are a little bit better. Okay, actually, I don't know if Nebraska's actually better than North Carolina Central, but sorry, Nebraska fans, but you know, we'll just have to see what they can do. Also, shout out to Louisville. They beat Cincinnati 24-7, got revenge on Cincinnati for stealing their coach. But I think Louisville fans are fine because they got their golden goose in Jeff Brom. The next couple of days, some of the most notable matchups: Wake Forest, Missouri, Friday night. That could be an interesting game. Um, we'll probably come back sometime next week before then. Maybe Wisconsin, Oklahoma State could be a good one. But again, um, I don't know. To me, it feels like bowl season just doesn't really matter anymore with all the opt outs, and it's the playoff. We're in the playoff era, and now that we're expanded to 12 games, these other bowl games are just going to mean less.
Oh, of course, of course. Even though I'm excited to see Tennessee and Clemson in the ultimate Orange Bowl.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to see the Vols in a big bowl game like that's going to be incredible. All right, quickly over to college basketball. I was going to go on a big rant about this, but it's been a couple of days. I've calmed down from it. The officiating in Tucson between Tennessee and Arizona in the top 10 game was absolutely unacceptable. The Vols were getting foul calls for just the most minor of things, while Arizona was getting away with literal murder on the court. Like Arizona could have pulled out a gun and shot some Tennessee players, and they wouldn't have been called for a foul. It was absolutely ridiculous. And the Vols still almost won the game, which was insane enough. But it just goes to show how good this Tennessee team I think actually is. I came out actually more impressed with them, even though despite the loss. I really think this Tennessee team is really something good. We need Josiah Jordan James back. I hope he comes back at some point. We need his ability to shoot the ball on the court. But the Vols, at least they came back tonight and won by 42 against Austin Peay, just absolutely demolished them. And there's been a lot of big results over the past few days in college basketball. Kentucky lost again to UCLA. Just John Calipari. If they don't get it turned around, he may be done after this year or next year in Kentucky. Like it's not turning around. Like you lost to St. Peter's, you're losing a lot of games early. He's gonna have to win some big games in SEC play, or else they're gonna get impatient with him in Lexington. Very impatient.
Oh, definitely. Kentucky basketball fans are like, Tennessee or even Alabama football fans. You expect to be good.
Oh yeah, and they just haven't been. Just have not been at all. So the conference play starts next week. Tennessee plays Ole Miss in the first SEC game. We'll be getting into some college basketball here over the next few weeks. Also, shout out to the Lady Vols. They almost upset number 2 Stanford, but came up 10 points short on Sunday. All right, NBA NBA Christmas Day games. Of course, we alluded to this earlier, but we got the NBA Christmas Day. Of course, 5 games as always. You have 76ers Knicks at noon, Lakers Mavericks at 2:30, Bucks Celtics at 5, Grizzlies Warriors at 8 p.m. and you have Suns Nuggets at 10:30. And this honestly will be some of the first basketball NBA I watch all year. I usually don't watch any NBA before Christmas Day. And for me, I'm most excited to watch that Grizzlies Warriors. John Morant's been killing it so far this year. Kind of disappointed that the Pelicans aren't on here because the Pelicans right now, I believe they're still on top of the league, the Western Conference. Well, Denver now is on top of the Western Conference, but you have Denver at 1, Memphis 2, New Orleans 3. A lot of really interesting teams right now. And then the Warriors and the Lakers right now wouldn't even be in the playing round. So, which is insane to think about.
Oh, yeah, I think, of course, it's still very early to say who's going to be in the playoffs. I think, of course, the Pelicans look revitalized and finally Zion showing some aspects of a pro because since he was drafted, we couldn't see much of him, especially all the injuries. But I think the Pelicans deserve to be in that spot, of course, the teams like Warriors, Celtics, Lakers, and Knicks will always be playing in this kind of big time events.
And the Knicks too, like they're 18 and 14 right now. That's really good. You know, interesting to see them on a primetime game like this.
Yeah,
So
I know they lost to Toronto today, but before that they were on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game winning streak.
yeah, I mean, they really beat the Warriors yesterday by 38. So but then again, you didn't have Curry. Clay Thompson still played though. They held him to 11. Jordan Poole had 26 for the Warriors, but you know that there's really no stars on the Knicks. I mean, their best player is probably R.J. Barrett or Julius Randle, but it is what it is right now. And the Knicks are playing really good ball. They're better than the Nets. I mean, partially because the Nets have been dealing with just drama galore. I mean, you know,
That's
Kyrie
what happens.
things.
That's what that's what happens when you pick Durant, Kyrie, Harper, and all those guys.
Yeah. So the Eastern Conference, though, I mean, this is when you look at the standings, the Eastern Conference right now, they're outclassing the West. So think about it. You have 4 20+ win teams. You have the Bucks, the Celtics, the Cavs, and the Nets. No one in the West Conference is 20 wins right now.
But also shout out to the Cleveland Cavaliers, finally being relevant after going on, the sub part. I know it's still very early and a lot of the thing, but I hope the Cleveland Cavaliers at least makes at least to the second round to the playoffs.
Yeah, hey, that's what happens when you get a superstar. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, he's finally out of Utah. He's with a burgeoning roster. I mean, they already had like Darius Garland, who is a great young player, and like you have Evan Mobley, but Donovan Mitchell, I mean that dude is legit, and he just didn't have the help he ever needed in Utah. So it'll be interesting to see if they can challenge Giannis or challenge that Celtics team because it does feel like we maybe are heading into an era where it's going to be Bucks Celtics for a couple of years, and that was an amazing series last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. So
And I mean, they're gonna face each other on Christmas Day. I think that's gonna be the best game on Christmas.
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting games. We'll see if the Warriors and Lakers can make a comeback here throughout the season. And really, a lot of people they start paying attention on Christmas Day. And hey, they're getting a break because the NFL kind of screwed up their Christmas Day scheduling this year. So, maybe a chance for the NBA to gain some of that share. To finish off the American topics, Dansby Swanson, his swan song, unfortunately, from Atlanta. He's going to the Cubs, 7 years, $177 million contract. Gonna miss seeing him as a Brave. I was initially extremely upset over this decision, but then I kind of rethought about it. I'm like, well, Alex and Flopoulos, I was really mad at you when you let Freddie Freeman walk to the Dodgers, but by the middle of the season, I really wasn't missing him that much because Matt Olson replaced his production, and we saved a lot of money doing it. They're able to go out and get other players, and Vaughn Grissom, in his limited time last year was great. And if he can do that over 162 games, then, we'll save then we will not regret letting Dansby Swanson walk to the Cubs.
And of course, like you made a great comparison because letting go Freddie Freeman nowadays with Swanson is like those players stood for the worst and then for the best. So they'll always lived in Atlanta Braves fans' hearts.
Yeah, and they both have rings as well. So we'll always remember them for that. But always definitely Braves legends. And I'll be rooting for his success. But I know you have a couple of Brazilian topics here.
Yeah, first, real quick, my beloved Rio Branco got a new coach, Marcos Paulo Gripe, 41-year-old coach. Had some success in teams in Minas Gerais, especially Caldense, got them to the state semifinals, and also we had a good run in the fourth division nationally. Of course, couldn't get the promotion. I think it's a different guy. Probably is a guy that probably is not. It could coach in a better division in the state of São Paulo, but good. Rio Branco got a good guy. I hope he can, get us to the promotion that we desperately need. And final topic of Brazilian topics: Palmeiras striker Endrick. He's 16 years old and he is already signed with Real Madrid for 72 million euros, 409 million reais. Palmeiras is going to have 60 million euros on on that, and 60 million is going straight to Palmeiras. 10 million is going to be related to the taxes and fees and all that stuff. But it was inevitable. I mean, we talked. I remember in the beginning of this year how Hendrick was going to be a superstar. He's a promising guy, and look what happened. He's already a Real Madrid player.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I mean it's insane just to see him how he's blown up over the past couple of years, and he's so young and to have that opportunity. Um, that's the type of player though that could get Brazil back on the international stage to winning, you know,
Yeah, the
and that's the future.
Yeah, he was, spending vacation in Rio along with Vini Jr. And the headlines were, "Is the duo is gonna bring the title back? Is this the winning duo the Brazil needs?" So there was a lot of, hopes, a lot of talk when Vini Jr. and Hendrick met. Probably it's more like Vini Jr. are giving tips to Hendrick because he went through what Hendrick is going through. He was signed as a under 18 to Real Madrid when he was in Flamengo, and now he got success. He scored a winning goal in the Champions League final for Real Madrid. So probably he's giving tips.
Yeah, and it's good to see them having that chemistry already. That has to be extremely encouraging moving forward.
Yeah, definitely it's good for them to have that chemistry because I think something tells me that Hendrick is going to be in the roster in 2026. Something tells me I think he's going to be in the roster in 2026. But that's it for Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports, episode 56, recorded on December 21st, 2022. Now, here in Brazil is already December 2nd, 2022.
Yeah.
Me and Nick wants to, I guess, say
Wish
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy Hanukkah if you celebrate that. Um, and just enjoy your holidays, enjoy your families, and stay safe out there if you're anywhere, especially in the US because it's about to get super cold. So bundle up, take care, and enjoy your holidays. And we'll see you
Yeah.
next week for the last episode of 2022.
Can't believe this year how it flew by. Tomorrow I'll be taking the bus and going to the beach because here in Brazil is summer and I deserve some beach time. Of
Meanwhile,
all,
I'm gonna go buy a parka because I'm gonna need it.
oh, okay. So see you guys next week for the last show of the year.
All right. Merry Christmas.